Hello and welcome back to another episode. Just discussing foster care and discussing parenting and just sharing my thoughts on how all of this process is going. So I know last time I talked a lot about just the struggles and the difficulties and the things that you believe that you anticipate, but you really don't anticipate until you're actually in it and you're doing the foster care and the child is with you, 24/7, and just all of those feelings and emotions that kind of come along with it. I know last time it was super serious and just really, honestly, very blunt, and I kind of ended the session or the podcast or whatever you want to call this, the recording, basically saying that it is not for the lighthearted and to really take your time and assess and evaluate whether you should do it or not. And I still feel that way. And I still feel like it's definitely a tough thing to adjust to, and it's a difficult thing to learn and just navigate. I would say that having another person with you, like your husband or your wife or whoever, your partner, is definitely really valuable. As I've been parenting my foster daughter for the last couple of months, I have made a lot of mistakes, and I think I've made a lot of strides at the same time. But the thing that has been most valuable for me is to have someone there who is experiencing the same things I'm experiencing, who can kind of talk me through things, and who I'm able to just really share my thoughts and feelings with about just the whole situation in general. So how I'm feeling personally, discussing behaviors that we're noticing. And so it's just really valuable to have someone there who is kind of going through the same things as you. I think that is why it's really important for you to find a support group and somebody who can help you navigate those thoughts and ideas, whether you decide to seek counseling or go to therapy yourself. I think that's a great idea. I know that me personally, I do plan on seeking out additional therapy and supports, because while it is super valuable to have my partner do those things with me and discuss those things with me, I think an outside, unbiased person would be equally as valuable. So our foster daughter has quite a few services that she receives, and this is really beneficial for her, and it's beneficial for any foster child because, receiving that counseling and therapy and just those sessions and that time to really break down feelings, emotions, barriers is something that I think all children who've experienced trauma should have, just because otherwise, when does it get addressed? When do the emotional needs get addressed if it's not with you as their foster parent? And so the other thing is, I think personally from my own observations, it's clear that cognitively, sorry about that, I got a phone call. What I meant to say is cognitively, it's clear that a lot of times the kids are unable to learn anything new or engage in academic learning until they can just have some of those emotional needs and frustrations and some of those underlying issues kind of addressed. It's really clear that the whole academic learning takes a seat, takes a back burner, or so to speak, because they just don't have the ability to engage with that type of learning when they're so angry and they're so frustrated just about the situation that they're in. So that has been somewhat of a learning curve for me. Like I said before, I am in education. I mentioned that last time. And education is just such a valuable, important tool to me, to my family, to my husband. And so we are very, how do I say it? I guess we're very like into being, people of knowledge, people of education, people who engage with, I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but basically, it's just something really important and valuable to us. And so it's difficult to have a foster child who struggles so much with education, and mainly because they have so many other things going on that's the furthest thing from their mind is learning how to read and write and math and science and all of that stuff. So that has definitely been something that I didn't think I would struggle with or would bother me. And it's not that it bothers me, it's just it's become even more clear what a priority it is for me. And so we're trying to kind of navigate just making that a priority for our foster child and trying to teach her the responsibility of becoming educated and just the pride that comes with learning how to access knowledge on your own. Like, reading is such a vital skill to being successful as a human being. You have to know how to read for anything and everything. And so teaching her that that is a valuable tool that goes beyond school and applies elsewhere in her life has been, such a priority for us. I would say one of the things that I've learned most so far about just parenting in general is that there's been so many mistakes that my mom made, and I know that sounds kind of mean or rude or messed up, but there's just been things in my life that I've thought about like over and over and over again. Like, oh, I can't believe my mom did this, or I can't believe my mom did that, or, I would never. And one of the most recent things that I was thinking about was, and I've always clung to this, and I've kind of been mean about it. I've always thrown it in my mom's face. But one time when I was about 10 years old, I don't remember what happened or any of the specific details really, but my mom got really mad at me and she called me a bitch. And I don't think she did it directly. I think it was done indirectly from what I can remember. I think she said it to my dad or something, said oh, why is she being such a bitch? And I just remember hearing that, as a 10-year-old kid. And I remember my feelings were so hurt, and I talked to my dad about it, and I was like, why did mom say that about me? And I was just so broken. How could my mom call me that? I knew it was a bad word, and so I felt so horrible. And even as an adult, I'd be oh man, remember that one time you called me a bitch, mom? Totally throwing it in her face constantly, and just being just not letting it go. And so I know my mom's felt bad about it for years. And most recently, we were getting really frustrated with our foster daughter. And, yeah. And I was so mad. And my husband's what is wrong with her? Why does she have such a terrible attitude? Why is she being such a bitch? And I was first of all, yeah, I don't know what her problem is. And we were kind of just so frustrated and just kind of reeling ourselves. And it just dawned on me, in that moment, I was wow. And I turned to my husband and I was you know what? I was this is such a good moment for me, because I'm I've held it over my mom's head that she called me a bitch when I was 10 years old for so long. Granted, that's not okay. I'm not saying it's cool to call your kids bitches. But man, sometimes they're really being a fucking bitch. It's really tough. You're why are you being such a jerk? And so it was just a moment for me, a realization. The only mistake my mom made was letting me hear her. That was the only mistake she made. She didn't make a mistake calling me that. I was probably being a bitch. Now as, a 30-something-year-old woman, it's very clear that, yeah, 10-year-old me was probably being an a-hole, and my mom had every right to be frustrated and angry, and too bad I heard. That's all I have to say. Too bad that 10-year-old me heard her say it. What an unfortunate event to have occurred. And, hopefully I never say anything in earshot. And I'm sure I will. And at some point, I'm sure, she'll be really hurt and upset, and I'll have to apologize and, go through those same motions that my mom's had to go through. But that's definitely been something interesting for me, just going through those moments where I did things or I said things as like a kid, or my mom did things or said things when I was a kid, and for whatever reason, like, I just thought, how could she, how dare she, or, just things that I never really thought of as odd or weird or that I felt justified in. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what was my problem? So that's been an interesting turn of events. I didn't think that that would be like my reflections on parenting, that a lot of this would end up in me forgiving my mom for things that, like, for one reason or another, I've like held a little grudge against her about it, or like, just like been a little, I don't know, like still have my feelings hurt. Yeah, like now I'm just like, yeah, no, I was probably being a bitch. But yeah, so another funny reflection that I had was, so my foster daughter was attending like a club, like a kids club type of deal, and she was going there, and the reason I had started taking her there was a friend of mine was like, maybe you guys need a break from each other, maybe you guys are around each other way too much, and it's becoming exhausting, and, that's probably really tough for you. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right, like, maybe part of my anxiety and my frustration and just all of my feelings is due to the fact that we're literally around each other 24/7. And the other thing that's happening right now for probably, I'm assuming, a lot of foster parents is the fact that, like, we're in the middle of this crazy time in our country, this pandemic, all of these social issues, just so much frustration, anxiety coming from our society. And so, we can't go anywhere, we can't really engage, people are afraid of each other. And so a lot of the things that we would normally be doing during the summer or just in general, a lot of those social experiences and outings, like, we're just not doing them. Like, we as a family have definitely quarantined. Like, we don't go anywhere, we don't go out, we don't go out to eat, we don't do any of those things, and it can be really soul sucking to just be inside the house all day. So a friend of mine did suggest that maybe I enroll her in something so that she and I could get a break for each other, because I was at the breaking point. I was like, I am so done with this. I can't handle it. And so I signed her up to go to a club thing, and, they have, like, safety precautions and safety measures in place, of course, and just things to keep the kids safe and the staff and stuff. And it seemed like it would work out. And so I was like, okay, let's do this. And the break definitely provided a lot of relief in terms of my just overall anxious feelings. And so she was attending the club and just going there, daily to have those interactions. Also, I thought it was really valuable for her to have social interactions. And one day I was working, because I do work from home. And so I was working and I got a phone call. I was in the middle of a meeting. And so I was like frantically trying to pause this meeting so I could hear the phone call, because I saw it was from the club. And of course, like, I think that's the other thing I've been experiencing is that, like, fear that parents, as soon as they get a call from their kids, like daycare or something, they're like, oh my God, dear God, like, what's happened? Like, something's gone down. And so when I saw it was them, I was like frantically trying to pause it, and I was like, oh Jesus, like, something horrible has happened. She's either hurt, she beat somebody up, somebody hit her, like, mostly it was like she beat somebody up. No, I'm kidding. No, but I was really nervous. I was like, oh geez. So I answer and I'm like, hello? And it's her. And she's like, hi, I was wondering, and, she's like, Tori, And I'm like, yes. And she's like, and then she starts describing this whole, like, situation of her playing. She's like, I was jumping on something and I was playing, and I'm like, okay. And I'm listening and I'm trying to figure out, like, what is the, I'm in the middle of a work meeting, and so I'm trying to, as quickly as I can, like, ascertain what is the situation here, like, what am I needed for? So I'm listening, and she details this whole story about how she jumped off of something or other in the gym and bit her tongue really hard. And I was like, okay, so are you bleeding? And she's like, yeah, I think I tasted blood when I bit my tongue. And I was like, okay. And I was like, and then she's like, and there's 2 holes in my mouth. And I was like, what? 2 holes? I'm sure it was just the dents from her teeth in her tongue. And I said, okay, so did they check you? Did the people there check you? And she's like, yeah. She's like, they said that if it still hurt at 10 o'clock, that I could call you. And I was like, okay. So what is it? So finally I was like, so what is it that you need me to do? What is it that you're looking for here? Like, what do you want to happen from this phone call? And she's like, can you come down here and check me? And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, can you come down and check me? And I'm like, I'm not driving all the way over there to check your tongue that you bit a half an hour ago. That's not even, I mean, this is the other thing I realized, okay? If she was really hurt, she wouldn't be the one on the phone, okay? It would be the people who would be like, hey, come get your kid, she bit her tongue off. You know what I mean? It'd be them, like, it'd be way more serious, not her babbling on about how she jumped off something and bit her tongue. And so that became clear to me as well. And I was like, listen, I'm sorry, I cannot come down there and examine your tongue. It sounds like you're fine. I mean, and also she's talking to me completely normal. Like, her voice, everything sounds completely normal. So, it's clear that her tongue is not even probably even swollen, because the speech is as clear as day. So I'm like, I cannot come down there and check your tongue. I know that's such a bummer for you right now, but you're gonna have to just hang out there till work is over, and then I can come pick you up. And so she was like, okay, and then she's like, it really hurts. Of course, it hurts. It'll go away soon. You'll be fine. So she's, somewhat satisfied with that response. And yeah, and then I hang up, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what the hell? And it just became so clear, like, and again, something that I had never thought about. We used to blow up my mom's work phone. My mom used to work for the court. I think she worked in, like, I don't know. I think she worked in, like, the courthouse collecting child, what is it called? Child care payments, like, from moms or dads who need to pay child support. There we go. Child support payments. I think my mom worked in that office from what I can remember. And, yeah, me and my brothers, oh my God, every day as soon as we got home from school, there was some sort of emergency, and we would just blow up her phone. Mom, Adam said this, Mom, David said this, Mom, Tori said this, and it would just be, complaint after complaint, and I'm not allowed to do this, and he won't let me do that, and she won't let me do this, and my mom, I feel bad now. I feel horrible, because at the time, like, I didn't think anything of it, and honestly, in most of my adult life, I've never thought anything of it, but now I feel bad. I'm like, Jesus Christ, we were just blowing up her phone. Everything was a crisis to us. Everything was a crisis. Not being allowed to do something, my brother changing the channel, me telling him to not eat something and him eating it. Like, I was like, that's it. I'm calling Mom. I'm getting the phone. And I mean, she used to parent us over the phone too. This was when my mom and dad had gotten divorced. And so, we were kind of expected to go home. I was a little bit older. I was like maybe 12. And so I would watch my brothers. after school. And I feel bad because my mom would be on the phone with us, like, parenting us, don't do this, don't do that, don't tell your sister this, don't do that to your brother. And I remember numerous times she'd be like, stop effing calling me at work. And I remember as a kid just being like, okay, what's the problem here? You're the mom. I'm in the middle of a crisis. I need your help. And now, as an adult, having her call me as I'm in the middle of the meeting, I'm trying to listen to what my bosses say, and having her tell me about biting her tongue, I was like, wow. I was like, we really could have either got her fired because we were just blowing up her phone 24/7, or we just did not recognize that when your parent is at work, they are doing something. It's when you're a kid, it's just like, what are you doing? I need you. I'm in the middle of a crisis. I need you to address this. Like, come look at my tongue. Make sure I'm not going to die. What is the problem? I need you to do this for me. It's like they have no concept of what you're doing, or, that anything you're doing is really of value because they're in emergency mode. So that has definitely been something that has been so funny for me and just so eye-opening. Just in terms of like my own behaviors as a kid, I don't think I would have ever reflected or even thought about those things, until having a kid and having a kid do those things to me. I mean, not do them to me, but you know what I mean, experiencing them with a child. And so that has been an eye-opener, and it's been so fun to share those conversations with my mom and to essentially apologize and be like, yeah, man, I'm really sorry for literally disturbing you at work every single day for numerous times a day. And, I apologize for my behavior as a, 10, 12, whatever year old. And so my mom's had a good laugh too. But that has been so fun and revealing for me. Everything else is definitely really stressful and exhausting beyond belief, but those little moments of just like self-recognition and reflection have been super nice. And my husband and I, we laugh, and he grew up in a household where, one parent was home caring for them and one parent was working. So his, family structure was a little different than mine. And so he's like, you called your mom at work? And I'm like, yeah, man, all the time. We were always in like emergency mode, ready to throw down. Like, and he's like, wow, he had mom at home. So, they never called dad at work because, there was a parent there. So it's just interesting. Like, he was just cracking up, and, we were having a good laugh. And so there's been other times where we just reflect on our own childhoods and our own experiences, and that has been so rewarding for us, I think, to have that time to reflect and think about, the situation in which we grew up in and how it's different, and how even though things are so different for our foster daughter, there are a lot of things that are the same. There are a lot of things that are the same just due to my husband and I's family structure. There are a lot of things that she's experiencing that are, the same as what we did. And I think that's good for her. I think that stability and those things are great for her. But yeah, it's been so much fun. That part has been fun. So that's kind of all I wanted to share today. Just kind of reflecting on some funny moments and just thinking about those things, and also just kind of reminding myself that there's going to be so many struggles and there's going to be so many layers that have to be peeled back for her to fully access her capabilities as a person, whether it's academic or just emotional. And so just to continue to have patience and to not let it get to me too much, and to try to like lead by example and just have grace and kindness and compassion the best way that I can, and to enjoy the moments that are funny and enjoyable and reflective. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and I'll definitely be back soon with another little reflection or thoughts or anything, that I can think of that I want to share with you guys. Thanks for joining in.